This is Marvel Rivals, the newest hero shooter featuring your favorite Marvel heroes. The only problem is, I've never watched a Marvel movie. So let's play through the opening act and find out if the game is actually any good, or just writing a billion-dollar franchise into mediocrity. So let's launch the game and get started. The opening cinematic is so incredibly stylish, you don't have to ever flip through a comic book to appreciate it. But with that, let's get to playing. There's a try tutorial button down below, and with competitive team-based shooters being a breeding ground of toxicity, I decide the best way to protect myself is to learn what I can. First things first, my worst nightmares come true. I'm used to Marvel characters being some sort of combo of naked, armored, or in the tightest spandex you've ever seen, and instead I get a guy straight out of Gears of War. This announcer lady introduces him as
the Punisher, a powerful duelist.
Now let's quickly go over my experiences with these hero shooters while we go over basic training. I played a little bit of Overwatch on release, I played a little bit of Paladins on release, and what knowledge of Marvel characters I do have comes exclusively from similar third-person shooter Fortnite. So I'll spare you the WASD movement, space to jump, and left click to primary fire. Middle mouse is ping with a robust wheel system, but now for our first wrinkle. Some environmental objects are destructible, highlighted by pressing the B key. So if the Kool-Aid Man ever joins the Avengers, he'll be right at home. The game then skips all of our basic character abilities and instead invites us to charge and utilize our ultimate ability. But in the strangest twist, while practicing my slick flicks, I end up killing all the practice bots before I can fire off my ult, with the announcer lady hyping me up
You've aced this training session
for forgetting to press the Q button. Luckily, there are other training modules, and the next one is arguably most important for a non-Marvel stan like me, the hero tutorial. We are immediately given the ability to swap out to different characters and try them out. I go with Iron Man because at least I know a little bit about him. Iron Man is cool since he can fly around indefinitely. In fact, they didn't even bother to give him a walking animation. This module walks us through each and every ability that our selected hero has, both primary and secondary fire modes, and any special abilities like Iron Man's Armor Overdrive, which, contradictory to its name, actually overdrives Iron Man's weapons. And this time I actually managed to properly fire off Iron Man's ultimate. And now we get another one of Marvel Rivals' unique twists. Here we get told about team-up abilities, which are unique abilities you can only use in the presence of certain heroes, in this case Bruce Banner and Iron Man. They range from cool and unique abilities which open up new gameplay strategies, to literally the same as before, but now my attacks are green. From there, the tutorial gives us the opportunity to switch to different heroes, and run through the tutorial again. And while the hero selection is maybe only 1/4 of the total playable cast, it is made up for with each of them having a personalized tutorial. Bruce Banner's, for example, forcing you to bound up and down buildings as the Hulk to progress. If you're bad at aiming, the Hulk might just be the hero for you, because his swings are generous. Also, I figured shooting a long-range lockdown netting would be more of a Spider-Man thing, but then again, I didn't watch any of the films. Another thing to note is the Hulk is much tankier than Iron Man, and his ultimate makes him doubly so. That's because heroes in Marvel Rivals are broken down into 3 roles: Vanguard, Duelist, and Strategist. That's tank, DPS, and support for you normal folk out there. After cleaning up with Bruce Banner, we go through the last 2 tutorials. First, we have our capture point tutorial, stand in the box, don't let the bad guys, or rather opposing good guys, stand in the box, hold the point for longer, and win. And we have a classic payload mode, which has been industry standard since like 20 years ago. Stand nearby this thing, and slowly push it to the other side of the map. With those 4 tutorials out of the way, we are ready for real, live opponents. But before we queue up, let's go over my favorite feature, the practice range. The practice range is the best place to familiarize yourself with each of the heroes. First off, we are finally given the full 30 hero selection. Then we can run around. You can beat up on specific heroes, or on pre-placed robots. Here I take the opportunity to familiarize myself with the Marvel cast that I have quite literally never seen before. magic. She's like a portal jumping Valkyrie who can transform herself into a demon. Next, I try someone who I've exclusively seen spammed on my Twitter timeline, and much to my surprise, Squirrel Girl is her actual legal hero name. Then there's Jeff the Land Shark, who, gun to my head, I don't think I could ever guess which Marvel series this dude is from. He has some fun abilities that I won't be spoiling, as we will soon find out firsthand. But as to not spoil all the fun, I close out of the practice range and get ready to jump into my first game of Marvel Rivals. First off, I gotta talk about this pre-game screen. It lets you select a hero before you queue in, even having a unique change hero screen and all. But when I queue up for quick play and load in, props to the sick music, I am immediately greeted with a new hero selection screen where my previous choice is completely void. Initially, I wanted to play the Punisher, since I'm familiar with him, but with no Vanguard locked in, I run it with Captain America. I was also unsure if you could hero swap mid-game, so there's that. Before the game starts, I get a good look at the scenery, and while I'm sure some comic book only lore nerd can appreciate what's going on here, I just think it looks cool. But okay, the battle begins. Captain America comes equipped with his trusty shield, which comes in handy whenever I run into scary dudes that I've never seen before. One of my favorite parts of playing competitive games on new accounts is trying to figure out if the other team is made up of bots or just movie fans who have never picked up a controller in their lives. I see this person flying overhead and try for a cheeky shield toss. I think I try like 10 different times and never manage it, but that's why they pay me to punch people instead. My team steamrolls them pretty badly. Most of the game I keep my ultimate in my back pocket. There's another missed shield throw, but eventually things start to get interesting. First off, I have a bit of an out-of-body experience, and before I can get my bearing, I get kidnapped by a Jeff player and dragged around against my will. Before he spits us all out, and we continue throwing down as usual. Then things get a little messy. Ultimate abilities start popping off. The opposing team manages to mount some sort of offensive. There's a big tornado with a huge red exclamation point that I completely disregard because I'm Captain America. Eventually I am left all alone, swinging fists in a circle of enemies, and I die, the first of my career, if you couldn't tell how easy this first game was going. And the game has a nice long death recap where you get to watch your spastic play from your opponent's point of view. When I respawn, the game actually does ask if you want to switch characters, but I'll be honest, in the live recording, I completely missed it. Unfortunately, by the time I can haul back to the front lines, the game is just about over, and I managed to win my first match of Marvel Rivals. Now, I don't consider myself to be some savant at these sort of games, but you gotta be something special to manage 0% accuracy. The game lets you watch your own, Blizzard don't sue me, play of the game, where I can be seen missing yet another shield throw. And this is where I have to mention, although the replay looks a little spotty, the game servers are actually rock solid, and that's despite the countless horde of Overwatch refugees and Marvel stans who were playing on release day. But okay, on to game 2, this time on a different role. I know as a fact I can land a support role since it's not DPS. This time I settle on Luna Snow, since she's a character that I haven't seen before, and she is front and center on the splash screen. As expected, it's a bit of a DPS fest, but luckily we get it sorted out before the round starts. After spawning in, we get a cool, unique character exchange between some of our heroes.
The actual Magneto.
Should I know who you are?
In my quest to find if my teammates are real or not, I try to get someone to jump on the bed with me, but again, no takers. Now, Luna Snow is a pretty simple character. Her basic attacks can both heal and hurt, depending on who you hit, and she can empower those attacks to pierce through targets, making my job a lot easier. Somehow, this game goes even smoother than the last, as we once again push them all the way back to their spawn, which only feeds my bot fears. I mean, with names like Eat My Gingerbread and Sympho89, they sure feel like AI-generated people. Luckily, with a second map to fight over, I can gather more info. And another little detail here, live recording version of me still doesn't realize that you can swap characters mid-game. And although the prompt isn't there, when I see that all of a sudden our Vanguard player is playing the Incredible Hulk, you can see the gears in my brain turning in real time, as I again check the menu for a swapping option. before the tiny text pops up for half a second before I rush out of spawn with my team. On the bright side, for the first time ever, I actually get pressured into using my ult, which is a big AoE heal, which can shift into a big AoE damage buff, which is honestly a really cool concept for support play. Unfortunately, after falling down from the high point, I get separated from the rest of my team. Not the ideal positioning for a support player. Luckily, our opponents are honorable gents, and they let me slip on by unharmed. We push them back to their base for another win, where I find out that you can bounce around during her ult. But even more crazy than that, that's my first MVP. Between games, I look around at the hero cosmetics. I've beaten to death the I don't get the lore shtick, but I genuinely have no idea what's going on in this Hulk MVP sequence. It's half, is this spoilers, and half, this looks really cool. And while most heroes have very few cosmetics at this point, I can tell by the art direction and quality that they have a pretty good idea what they're doing. Okay, on to the third of the trifecta, the Duelist class or DPS. After ogling at more of the fancy selection animations, I settle on Iron Man and queue into a game. And immediately my teammates find a way to beat the bot allegations.
Alright.
Unfortunately, with microphone feedback on par with the old Xbox days, I do myself a favor and mute. I lead the team in and the battle begins. Despite being completely exposed, I remain largely unharmed as I rain bombs down upon my enemies. Strangely, that mechanic of destructible environments rears its head again, this time with spontaneously reconstructing environments. Also, despite not being able to identify whoever this is and what they can do, the game does a really good job of getting across the "you probably shouldn't be shooting them right now" message. But soon enough, my opponents realize that I'm just hovering around, and I get taken down. Rejoining the fight, I really abuse my enemy's inability to look up as I do my thing, even managing to take out the enemy Iron Man before the pillar can rematerialize. And then I learn a valuable lesson. As it turns out, charging an ultimate ability with 10 seconds of charge up doesn't work well in the center of a room. It looks even dumber in the kill cam. Regardless, we snag the first capture site. I ungag my teammates briefly, but they're on a short leash. This round, I have my first real aha moment with the destructible environments, as I fly around using it as cover. We actually take our first bad fight, letting them get ahead on percent. But a few clutch kills, and we regain control. At this point, I also remember that my ultimate is probably something I should be using.
Oh, yeah, you see me just did.
And I get a first-hand display of why voice acting is very important.
Everybody ready? Make way for the god of mischief.
You've captured more than half of the mission area.
But with one last push, we managed to hold on to win the match 2-0, officially making me 3-0 on my Marvel Rivals debut. This is also where I find out that the game saves the top highlight for everyone on your team. Just keep in mind that not all of them are very impressive. So after 3 matches against the Avengers, against the Spider-Man guys, and against a bunch of randoms that I can't draw allegiance to, I will award Marvel Rivals a, yeah, definitely give it a go. It's free and looks and plays real nice, out of 10. And hey, subscribe if you want to follow my gaming world tour.